You know, usually when we talk about going to the movies, there's this underlying expectation of magic.
Yeah,
Like you're sitting down for a really good, world-class magic trick, lights go down, the screen lights up, and you just sort of surrender to the illusion.
right. You actively want to believe a man can fly or, I don't know, a spaceship can jump to light speed.
Exactly. It's this unspoken contract, right? Like we agree to bend our disbelief.
And in exchange, the filmmakers agree to hide the wires so we can just get lost in the story.
Right. But then you step into the world of modern blockbuster entertainment today, and that illusion isn't just shattering. I mean, it's aggressively insulting.
It really is.
The wires aren't just visible, they are tangled, they are fraying, and the magician is actively asking you to just ignore them while, demanding a premium $25 ticket price for it.
Yeah, the math just doesn't work out for the viewer.
So, for everyone listening, our mission today is to unpack because we are looking at a global entertainment landscape that is collapsing in real time. And to frame just how dramatic this shift is, I want to start with a deeply personal note from a lifelong fan.
Oh, yeah, this was a fascinating data point.
Right. So this is someone who pointed out that today, 90% of the series they consume are Japanese anime, and only 10% are cartoons or live action from the US and Canada.
Wow.
And they noted it has been that way since they were. So if you're a learner joining us for this deep dive, we like to get into the systemic reasons behind these shifts.
Absolutely, because, a decade or two ago, hearing someone say they watch 90% Japanese animation and almost nothing from Hollywood, well, it would make you assume they belong to a very specific niche subculture.
Totally. Like the anime club in high school.
Exactly. But when you dive into the financial and cultural data wrapping up 2025, that 90-10 split, it isn't a fringe subculture anymore.
No, not at all.
It is rapidly becoming the global economic norm. We are dealing with a structural crisis that is completely rewriting what it means.
Right, what it means to make art.
Yeah, and what it means to run a profitable entertainment business. Hollywood is bleeding out.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why is Hollywood hemorrhaging money and relying entirely on past glory while anime is just generating unprecedented finance?
Well, the data points directly to a massive foundational art,
which is
the total loss of physical crafts. We've moved from photographed reality to what is essentially rendered slop.
Rendered slop. Wow, that's a brutal phrase.
It's a harsh industry term, yeah, but it is surgically accurate, right? The clearest way to understand this is to look at the visual evolution, or regression.
Right, regression.
Between Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings trilogy and his later Hobbit trilogy.
Oh, that is the perfect example. Think about why Lord of the Rings felt like a monumental generational event.
It felt authentic.
Yes, because of the physical reality of the production, you were looking at actual New Zealand terrain. You could feel the biting wind,
And you could feel the physical weight of the objects on screen.
Right, like the crew famously built real chainmail armor, hand-linking thousands of rings.
Thousands of them. And they crafted specialty prosthetics and these incredibly detailed physical miniatures.
They called them bigatures, right?
Yeah, bigatures. So when an orc gets hit with a sword, the armor actually looks dented because it is actual metal or at least hardened polyurethane taking a real hit.
The digital polish in those early films was minimal. Like it was the icing on the cake, not the cake itself.
Exactly. But then look at The Hobbit, which really represents the dawn of this modern era of digital filmmaking.
Right.
The environment lost its physical weight entirely. Suddenly, digital props, digital makeup, entirely digital environments, they became the default.
And it's not just an aesthetic problem.
No, there's a profound psychological impact when you render a movie versus photograph.
How so?
Well, when you photograph a physical set, you are capturing real light bouncing off a physical object in the real world. Our brains have evolved over millions of years to understand what reality looks like.
Right. We subconsciously know how gravity affects a heavy wool cloak.
Yes. Or how sunlight diffuses through dust in a real app.
So when a movie is entirely rendered on a computer workstation, even if it's like running at 4K or 8K resolution, our brain triggers a subconscious alarm.
Exactly. It feels weightless. The lighting in a fully digital pipeline almost never perfectly matches the act.
Because the environment didn't actually exist when the light hit the camera lens?
You nailed it. The world feels assembled, not inhabited. It creates this psychological distance. You aren't immersed. You are basically watching an exceptionally expensive video game cutscene.
Wow. Yeah, and there's a deeply tragic anecdote from the production of The Hobbit that kind of encapsulates this entire era.
Oh, you mean the Ian McKellen story?
Yes. So Ian McKellen, playing Gandalf, actually broke down crying set.
So
he was trying to act out a scene, but he was completely alone in this massive green screen volume. He had no other actors to look in the eye, no physical set to interact with.
just like tennis balls on sticks and neon green walls.
Right. The modern production pipeline stripped the humanity and the physical craft right out of the performance.
It did.
You know, it makes me think of buying mass-produced flat-pack furniture.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Think about it. From across the room, it looks like a sturdy oak bookshelf. It has a high-res wood grain pattern printed on it. It looks structurally similar to real furniture.
Right, from a distance.
But the moment you walk up to it, run your hand across it, or, try to put actual weight on it, the cheapness is undeniable. It wobbles. It feels hollow.
Yeah. That's so true.
Contrast that with handmade, hand-carved wood. It might have imperfections, but it has soul. Modern Hollywood feels like they're exclusively manufacturing flat-pack furniture.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, think about the last time you went to the theater. Have you noticed how the physical environments somehow look fake now? Like reality itself has been pushed too much,
Yeah, the flat pack analogy works perfectly for the visual aesthetic, but it actually falls short when you look at the economics.
Wait, really? Why?
Because flat pack furniture is cheap for the consumer. It's a budget. Imagine IKEA charging you the price of a custom, handcrafted mahogany desk, but handing you a particle board box with a little hex wrench.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is the Hollywood model right now.
They're charging premium IMAX prices for hollow experience. And this flat pack approach, it was driven by a desire for industrial scale standardization.
Right, make it effective.
Exactly. And once Hollywood executives got comfortable standardizing and faking the visual world, they immediately moved to standardize the most important element of all.
Story itself.
The story. Which brings us to the philosophical shift from making movies to producing.
Those two phrases might sound synonymous, but they represent entirely different universes of thought.
They're completely opposed to one another. I mean, making a movie implies an artistic endeavor.
Right. It has a definitive beginning, middle, and end, crafted by a director to provoke a specific human response.
Exact. Producing content, however, is an industrial term. It implies filling a digital container just to keep a platform's metric dashboard in the green.
Just feeding the beast.
Yeah. This strategy relies entirely on feeding a franchise pipeline with an unyielding line of sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and reboots.
And the result is that these movies arrive, as the source puts it, pre-exhausted.
Pre-exhausted. It's a brilliant conceptualization of the modern box office.
It really is.
We have to look at why this is happening in the boardrooms.
Yeah.
Publicly traded mega corporations like Disney or Warner Bros. Discovery, they operate on the tyranny of the quarterly earnings call.
Right. The CEOs have a legal fiduciary duty to maximize short-term shareholder value.
Exactly. So a $40 million original movie is a risk. It might be a masterpiece, but it's really hard to model on a spreadsheet.
But a sequel to a billion-dollar brand, well, that provides the illusion of a safe bet to Wall Street.
The illusion, yeah. By constantly greenlighting based on brand recognition alone, executives have actively trained audiences to ignore original ideas.
Right. They're asking the audience to tap into their old nostalgia, but what they deliver is a flatter, highly brand-managed corporate version of the thing they used to love.
And the ultimate manifestation of this is the Marvel machine.
Oh, absolutely.
They built this sprawling, interconnected web of movies and TV shows, but in doing so, they developed a very specific, rigidly enforced house style.
Right, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm talking about the quippy house style.
Yeah.
It's this mandatory formula where every single serious, emotional, or high-stakes moment is immediately punctured by a corny joke.
Every single time.
A character sacrifices their life, or a planet is completely destroyed, and literally 5 seconds later, someone makes a sarcastic comment about
It's exhausting.
The movie refuses to let the audience sit with any actual emotion. But let me push back for a second.
Sure.
From a purely corporate standpoint, isn't a shared cinematic universe technically a brilliant business model? I mean, it keeps people hooked. It creates recurring revenue.
Right.
It's like taking a beloved, single-location, local restaurant and franchising it globally.
Well, it was a brilliant business model initially, but let's follow your restaurant analogy to its logical conclusion.
Okay, let's do it.
What happens when you franchise that beloved local spot into 1,000 locations? You have to standardize the ingredients to ensure consistency across the globe.
Right. You fire the passionate original chef and bring in a food scientist to optimize the menu.
Exactly. The recipe is technically, on a chemical level, the same, but the soul is completely.
The tomatoes are genetically bred to survive cross-country transport, not to actually taste good.
Yeah. Eventually, people stop going, because the food tastes like every other generic stall in the food court. When the first Iron Man came out, it was a standalone movie crafted by a filmmaker.
Today, these franchise entries aren't movies. They are just $300 million episodes in a never-ending television.
Right. And you can only feed people flat-pack, pre-exhausted content for so long before they realize the meal just isn't satisfying anymore.
So what does this all mean? Well, it brings us to the brutal, undeniable math. We need to talk about the box office bloodbath of the last few years because audiences are actively, aggressively reject model.
The numbers from the 2023 to 2025 financial wraps aren't just a minor dip. They are historically shocking.
They really are.
They represent a fundamental structural rejection by the consumer.
Let's break down these figures, starting with 2023's The Marvel. This was supposed to be a massive cornerstone of their franchise pipeline.
A huge tentpole.
The production cost was north of $270 million, and the global box office, it made roughly $26 million global.
It is genuinely hard to articulate just how catastrophic that number is for a studio.
Explain the math behind that loss, because a lot of people see a movie that costs $270 million and makes $26 million, and they think, oh, it lost $244 million. But the financial reality is so much worse than that, right?
Significantly worse, yeah. Because when a studio spends $270 million, that is purely the production budget.
Right, paying the actors, the crew, and the VFX houses.
Right. It does not include marketing. And for a blockbuster of that size, global marketing, the billboards, the Super Bowl ads, the press tours,
that's massive.
It often adds another $100 million to $150 million. So the actual sunk cost is closer to $400 million.
Wow.
Then you have to look at theater splits.
Right. The theaters don't just hand all the ticket money back to Disney.
Exactly. Domestic theaters in the U.S. keep roughly 50% of the ticket revenue. Half. And internationally, the split is often worse for the studio, sometimes 40-60. And in China, the government-backed theaters keep 75% of the growth. So out of that minuscule 26 million global take, the studio is only seeing maybe 10 million to 12 million.
So the estimated actual loss on the Marvels is well over $230 million and possibly higher.
Yeah, much higher when marketing is fully baked in.
Why such a complete collapse, though? I mean, it wasn't universally hated. The reviews were essentially just, okay.
But okay is a death sentence when your combined budget is nearly $400 million.
Right.
The audience looked at the pre-exhausted content, recognized the flat-pack nature of it, and just decided their time and $25 were better spent elsewhere.
And this trend accelerated viciously into 2025.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's look at Disney's live-action Snow White from 2025. This is foundational IP. This is the bedrock of the company.
The crown jewel.
Right. It had a staggering $336 million production cost. But it was buried under this bizarre controversy from the star's poorly received media interview, combined with massive, expensive reshoots to try and fix the rendered CGI characters.
Right, the CGI dwarfs.
Yeah. And the result, it lost up to $170 million.
The pattern here is what terrifies Wall Street. You have astronomical spend for a movie that nobody in the general public was actively asking for.
Totally. And then we have the comic book side again with the Joker sequel, Folie à Deux.
Which is wild because the first Joker was a massive lightning-in-a-bottle hit that made over $1 billion.
Right. It was supposed to prove they could strike twice.
Instead, the sequel received horrendous CinemaScore grades. And, we really need to clarify what CinemaScore is because it's vital to understanding box office math.
Please do, yeah.
CinemaScore isn't just a collection of opinions from snooty film critics on the internet.
It's an actual poll, right?
Yes, it is an actual scientific exit poll conducted with everyday audiences on opening night. If a movie gets an A, it means the audience loved it and will tell their friends.
Word of mouth.
Exactly. If a movie gets a C or below, it is a mathematical guarantee that the movie's box office legs will completely collapse by the second.
And Joker 2 got a historically bad CinemaScore.
It did. It had incredibly ugly word of mouth and finished with about $27 million worldwide. The estimated loss was in the vicinity of $200 million.
There was even speculation from industry insiders that the Hollywood creators actively hated their own fandom, making the movie deliberately alienating as some sort of meta-commentary.
Yeah, that was the rumor.
Whether that's true or not, the fact that the audience felt antagonized speaks volumes.
It really does.
And we have one more flop to highlight from 2025. Tron Air, another legacy Hollywood brand, another massive studio push.
Right.
It grossed $140 million on a $220 million budget. Run the math on the marketing and the theater splits we just talked about, and it's a loss of over $130.
When you synthesize these data points, the reality becomes really stark. Hollywood executives are budgeting based on the assumption of 2018 consumer behavior.
Like time just stopped.
Yeah, they are acting like it's still the golden era of the cinematic universe, completely oblivious to the fact that the foundation has entirely crumbled.
They are throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at legacy brands, assuming the brand alone drop.
Completely ignoring that physical craft and sincere storytelling are what actually retain entertain an audience.
And the craziest part is they aren't slowing down. Look at the upcoming Avenger, Doomsday. Industry analysts extrapolate this to be a $700 million.
Daggling.
That's roughly $400 million in production costs and $300 million in global marketing.
Which means once you factor in those theater splits, this single movie will need to make somewhere between $1.2 and $1.5 billion at the global box office just to break even.
To reach zero.
Just to not lose money.
That is sheer insanity. A risk profile that requires $1.5 billion just to not lose money would get you fired in almost any other industry on Earth.
In a heartbeat.
They are betting the entire farm on an audience that has actively demonstrated they are exhausted by the product.
And this is where we have to look at the macroeconomic, because these failures are not just an abstract spreadsheet game played by billionaires.
Right, there are real-world consequences.
Huge one. When movies lose $200 million, the consequences aren't just hurt feelings in a corporate boardroom in Burbank.
Exactly. These failures are causing a localized economic depression in California. The 2025 reports paint a very grim. The Milken Institute reported that California lost $4.1 billion in economic.
And more than 17,000 jobs. And we really need to be clear about who those jobs belong to.
We aren't talking about A-list actors or directors.
No, not at all. We are talking about the working class backbone of the gaffers, the caterers, the set builders, the drivers, the local lumber yards that supply the wood for the set.
17,000 livelihoods wiped. Film LA reported that Los Angeles finished 2025 with only about 20,000 on location.
That's awful.
That is a 16% drop from the year before. The city that was the beating heart of movie magic is literally quieting down.
It is.
And if you zoom out to the broader industry, the 2025 North American box office stalled at roughly $8.9 billion.
Now, $8.9 billion might sound like a massive number in a vacuum, but you have to compare it to the base.
Right.
It is still 22% below the 2019 pre-pandemic levels.
Wow, 22% is a huge chunk.
It is. And the industry keeps celebrating these brief bursts of oxygen. You know, a hit movie like Deadpool or Barbie here or there, but they are entirely ignoring the underlying structural disease.
The patient is bleeding out on the table, and the executives are popping champagne because they found a single good heart.
That is exactly what's happening, and you can see the panic setting in on Wall Street.
Oh, absolutely. Look at Disney's stock performance. It's down 50% from its all-time high.
Half its value.
And the most telling detail in their financial disclosures is that Disney's theme parks are doing the heavy lifting to cover the massive, gaping losses from their film and TV.
The tail is entirely wagging the dog at this point. The core product, the storytelling engine that built the cultural relevance of the empire, is failing.
Let me pose a question to you. If the core product is failing, how long can the side hustle keep the empire afloat?
Not long.
Think of a legendary stadium touring rock band. Let's say they haven't written a good song in a decade. Their new albums are totally unbelievable.
Right.
But they survive entirely by going on tour and selling $40 retro t-shirts at the merch.
See where you're going with this.
Eventually, the older fans who buy the t-shirts are going to age out, and no new fans are going to buy a t-shirt for a band whose music they actively. The theme park is the t-shirt.
It's an incredibly apt analogy because the theme parks rely entirely on the cultural relevance of the movie. Why do you spend thousands of dollars to take your family to a Star Wars or Marvel theme park?
Because you have an emotional connection to the films.
Exactly. If the films stop being culturally relevant, if they become laughingstocks or are simply ignored by the next generation, the desire to go to a theme park based on those films will inevitably decay.
Right.
It's a delayed reaction, but a mathematically certain.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because nature abhors a vacuum. While Hollywood was busy manufacturing pre-exhausted content, an industry from the exact opposite side of the world was perfectly positioned to fill the void.
They were ready.
We need to talk about the anime alternative.
Because audiences didn't stop wanting epic stories.
Right. The desire didn't vanish.
No. They were craving excitement, they were craving visual novelty, and most importantly, they were craving depth. Anime slipped right into that opening with surgical precision.
Let's revisit that personal note from the very beginning of our deep dive. The fan who watches 90% anime and 10% Western media. Why has this become the norm for millions?
Well, what do you think the defining shift is?
The word that defines this shift above everything else is sincerity.
Sincerity.
Anime is a medium that deeply trusts earnest emotion.
This is the exact antithesis of the Marvel Quippy House style we discussed earlier. Anime is fundamentally not embarrassed by its own subject matter. It is not embarrassed by profound heartbreak, by obsessive dedication, by sacrifice, or even by silence.
It allows scenes to breathe. It will let grief sit there, heavy in the room, with the characters and the viewer, without rushing it out the door.
It doesn't immediately undercut the tension with a cheap joke. It's such a relief.
So to our listeners, ask yourself, When was the last time a $200 million Hollywood blockbuster actually made you sit in silence and feel a profound sense of loss?
Without winking at the camera.
Exactly. When was the last time you felt true, unironic awe watching a Western superhero movie without a character winking at the camera to tell you, don't worry, we know this is silly, please don't cringe?
Hollywood blockbusters left viewers absolutely starving for emotional resonance. Western studios started treating the audience like cynical teenagers who couldn't handle genuine, vulnerable feeling. Anime, conversely, treats its audience, regardless of whether the show is aimed at kids or adults, like human beings who want to experience the full spectrum of emotion.
It takes its themes seriously. And this isn't just an artistic victory. It has profound business. The Japanese branding firm Dentsu describes the anime industry as a fandom ecosystem.
The fandom ecosystem. It's a vital concept.
Unpack that for us. What exactly makes it an ecosystem rather than just a market?
Well, in a traditional market, you have passive consumption. You buy a ticket, you eat your popcorn, you watch the movie, and you forget about it an hour later.
Right. Transactional.
Exactly.
Right.
But in a fandom ecosystem, culture, emotional attachment, and commerce all reinforce each other in a continuous loop.
Oh, wow.
People aren't just consuming content. They are forming a deep personal attachment to the character's struggles, the lore of the world, and the community of other fans. The consumption becomes a core part of their identity.
An emotional attachment naturally leads to unprecedented loyalty, which is completely rewiring the demographic norms of what entertainment today. Let's move into this concept of oshatsu culture and the total demographic over.
The visual shift alone is just wild.
Look at San Diego Comic-Con. A decade ago, anime was present at Comic-Con, but it was largely confined to a small, strange-smelling room in the corner of the convention.
Yeah, it was a total afterthought for the major Hollywood prize.
Right, but today, it is the absolute heart of the convention. The massive Hall H panels are being rivaled by tens of thousands of fans showing up specifically for anime, Japanese gaming, and cosplay.
It is the main event now.
It really is. And this brings us to this incredible Japanese cultural concept, oshiatsu.
Yes, oshiatsu is fundamental to understanding the sheer economic gravity of this shift. It translates roughly to the subculture of aggressively, passionately supporting your favorite character.
And we are not talking about casually buying a DVD or streaming a season.
No, we are talking about a subculture whose annual spending is estimated at a whopping 3.5 trillion yen.
Wow.
That translates to roughly $23 billion.
$23 billion just for merchandise, live events, exclusive release.
Exactly. Fans are enthusiastically opening their wallets because their attachment to the brand is deeply tied to their personal identity. Hollywood completely fails to grasp this level of investment.
Totally. A Hollywood executive looks at a fan and sees a demographic target to extract a $20 ticket from.
Right.
The anime industry looks at a fan and sees a willing participant in an ecosystem who wants to be surrounded by the art.
It's a completely different philosophy.
It reminds me of hardcore sports fandom. Think about how a die-hard NFL or Premier League fan operates. They will spend hundreds of dollars on a jersey with another person's name on it.
Absolutely.
They invest their identity, their mood, their entire weekend, and a significant portion of their disposable income in win-loss record.
If the team loses, their Monday is genuinely ruined.
Right. Anime fans invest that exact same level of identity and emotional energy in a character's journey. If a character dies, they legitimize. If a character succeeds after a 20-episode arc, they celebrate.
It's real emotion.
Hollywood treats audiences like people waiting at a bus stop. Just give them something shiny to look at to pass the time. Anime treats them like active participants in a stadium.
And because of that intense, sports-like loyalty, the old demographic boundaries have completely shattered. We have staggering statistics proving that anime viewership among Gen Z in the United States now actually outpaces the NFL.
I just want to pause on that because it sounds almost impossible.
Yeah.
Japanese animation outpaces the National Football League among American generations.
It was an unthinkable dynamic 10 years ago, but the data is clear. And it's not just a niche platform thing anymore. Netflix, the largest streamer in the world, reports that more than half of its entire global subscriber base now watches anime.
Half.
Yes, it has firm, mainstream global demand. And crucially, anime has seen a massive renaissance in material aimed specifically at women and girls.
Which shatters the outdated Western stereotype that anime is entirely just action shows with spiky-haired teenage boys screaming and throwing energy blather.
Precisely. You have shoujo anime aimed at young women. You have intricate fantasy, profound slice-of-life romance high-stakes sports dramas like Haikyuu or Blue Lock.
While Hollywood is recycling the same pre-exhausted superhero IP for the 10th time, targeting the exact same demographic, anime is expanding its genres to capture literally every human interest.
It's adaptable.
So when you combine this massive, rabidly loyal, emotionally invested, globally expanding fan base with incredibly low production costs, you get an asymmetrical financial disparity that should terrify every single executive in Los Angeles. Let's get into the asymmetrical economics of anime.
This is where the math goes from bad for Hollywood to apocalyptic. Let's compare the financial efficiency of these two models using the ultimate case study, Demon Slayer, Mugen Train, released in 2020.
Okay, let's look at the numbers.
The total production cost for the Mugen Train theatrical film was just under $16 million.
Wait, $16 million? That's it?
That's it.
That's literally the catering and trailer budget for an Avengers movie.
It is a rounding error for Disney, yet that $16 million film grossed an unbelievable $512 million worldwide.
Wow.
That is a 32.6 times return on investment. It finished as the highest grossing film globally in 2020.
And the critical reception matched the box office. It sits at a 98% with critics and 99% with audiences on Rotten.
And this wasn't just a pandemic fluke where there was no competition. Look at the 2025 release Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle.
Right, the follow-up. It became a monster theatrical event, pulling in roughly $780 million global, again with near-perfect audience reception.
Now compare that to the Hollywood flops we just walked through.
Right, Disney lost $130 million on Tron Airs with a $220 million budget.
Exactly. Hollywood is spending mountains of cash to actively lose money, while the anime industry is spending pennies to print billions.
And the gap is even more striking when you look at television product. The Financial Times estimates that a top-tier, incredibly well-animated 30-minute anime episode costs roughly $140,000.
$140,000. Now compare that to the recent Marvel television shows on Disney+.
Oh.
They are reportedly costing $15 million to $25 million per episode.
Per episode. It is a different universe of financial risk.
It is. And it's not just the direct ticket sales or the streaming views. It's the power of compounding IP. Sony saw this coming from a mile away.
Let's talk about Sony's brilliant 2021 move to buy Crunchyroll, which is essentially the dedicated Netflix of anime, for $1.2 billion.
Such a smart move.
At the time, Western analysts thought they vastly overpaid for a niche service, but by 2025, Crunchyroll had exploded to 17 million paying subscribers.
Because Sony understands the Oshiatsu ecosystem. They recognize that anime fandom keeps compound. A fan watches a show on Crunchyroll, then they buy the manga.
Then they buy a $50 figure.
Then they buy a $20 ticket to the theatrical movie event. Then they buy the video game.
And the global market projections reflect this compounding growth. Forecasts place the global anime market at roughly $39 billion today, scaling to a staggering $71 billion by 2032.
$71 billion.
And you can see the Western platforms desperately trying to get a piece of that ecosystem. Netflix is massively expanding their live-action One Piece adaptation into immersive experiences, merchandise, and spin-offs, completely relying on the intense fandom that the original anime built.
Yeah, they're trying to import the ecosystem.
So I have a question for you, connecting all these dots. With Hollywood spending $200 million to make a movie nobody wants to see, and anime spending $16 million to top the global box office, is Hollywood's problem purely financial bloat? Is it just bad accounting? Or is the financial bloat just a symptom of absolute creative bankruptcy?
Oh, it's intrinsically linked. The financial bloat is the primary symptom of creative bankruptcy.
Explain that.
Well, because Hollywood executives lack original, sincere, compelling ideas, they try to substitute sheer visual spectacle for narrative substance.
Right.
They believe that if they just throw enough CGI budget at the screen, if they hire enough A-list actors at $20 million a pop, it will disguise the fact that the story is completely hollow and pre-exhausted.
But anime doesn't need to do that.
Exactly. Anime doesn't need to spend $200 million because the story, the emotional stakes, and the character development are doing the heavy lifting. In anime, the sincerity is the special effect.
Wow. The sincerity is the special effect. Which leaves us with the ultimate question, the path forward. Can Hollywood actually wake up, recognize the math, and...
There's a glimmer of hope, but, it is highly conditional.
Conditional on...
Well, Hollywood still possesses giant, iconic brands. The institutional empire isn't going to vanish overnight, but the actual movie-making machine, the pipeline of creation, is fundamentally broken and needs to be rebuilt from the ground up.
I love this quote from actor Ryan Gosling that perfectly summarizes the mandate right now. He said, "It's not the audience's job to save Hollywood's job to make movies people actually..."
It's a brilliant quote because it places the responsibility squarely back where it belongs, on the creators, the writers, and the executives.
For years, Hollywood has been blaming the audience. They blame superhero fatigue, or they say audiences are too distracted by their phone, or they blame the post-COVID streaming habit.
Gosling's point is, stop blaming the customer. Make better art. And look at his own film, Project Hail Mary.
Exactly. A non-franchise, original theatrical event based on a standalone book. It opened with $80 million domestic, received rave reviews, and had incredible legs at the box.
It proved definitively that people will go to the theater. They just want originality. They want physical craft.
Yeah.
They want to be moved.
But the tragedy of modern corporate bureaucracy is that the executives at the very top are usually the last ones to learn, aren't they?
Always. Their financial incentives are tied to keeping the old machine running just long enough for their stock options to vest.
It's the ultimate irony. Hollywood executives only seem to learn their lesson when they have absolutely no other. Is a total catastrophic collapse necessary before a rebirth can happen?
What do you mean by total collapse?
Like, do the studios literally have to burn to the ground financially, face bankruptcy, and clear out the entire C-suite before a director is allowed to just make a sincere $40 million movie again without a boardroom forcing a 10-year cinematic universe script?
Honestly, history strongly suggests that yes, major institutional change usually requires a near-death experience. The current model of spending $300 million to make $26 million is mathematically unsustainable. Something will break.
It's a massive shift to process, but let's bring it all together for everyone.
Yeah, let's recap.
The transition we've explored today, from total, unquestioned Hollywood dominance to the rising global supremacy of anime, is not an act. It wasn't just a fleeting cultural fad or a lucky algorithm.
No, it was structural.
It is the direct, logical result of one industry abandoning craftsmanship, physical reality, and genuine emotion in favor of cookie-cutter, risk-averse, flat-pack.
And at the exact same time, another industry leaned heavily into deep sincerity, diverse storytelling, and building emotional ecosystems with their fans.
Hollywood tried to manufacture passive consumers. Anime cultivated active believers.
And as we look toward that projected $71 billion future for the global anime market, it leaves us with a rather provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We see Hollywood struggling, perhaps fatally, with its live-action original cinema. We see the massive, compounding success of anime IP. What happens if Hollywood eventually just stops trying to beat them?
Wait, you mean just giving up?
Yeah. Will the legacy Hollywood studios of the future, Disney, Warner Bros., Universal, abandon original live-action cinema altogether? Will they simply transition into becoming massive, hollow production factories entirely dedicated to churning out expensive live-action adaptations of hit anime IP?
Oh my God.
Essentially becoming subservient to the Japanese storytelling engine because they forgot how to build their own.
Wow, from the undisputed kings of global culture to just being the high-budget franchise translation service for another country's art. That is a wild, but based on the math we just went through, entirely plausible future.
It really is.
Grab the remote side. Thank you so much for joining.